We on? Hi. Are we on? Okay, great. Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Kelly Letcher. I am the liaison to the Finance Advisory Committee. I am the budget director here for the district. This is Barb Gill. She is the secretary for the committee, and she also is the secretary for the financial accounting department. So we'll be your two contacts for the district if you have any questions. Hi.
Where do I sit? Sorry.
Wherever you would like.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Got a gun, thank you.
I'm not gonna argue. That's right. So the first thing we're gonna do is, if everybody wouldn't mind, we'd like to go around and just introduce yourself. Let us know if you're a new member, if you're a member that has been here in the past, or a continuing member. We would love to have that. And just real brief about, maybe your background a little bit. So if we can start, we'll start with Mr. Cohen.
Hi, I'm Paul Cohen. I'm the past chair of the committee. I've served on the committee for, I believe it's 6 years. And wonderful seeing such a crowded room of a lot of very talented people.
My name is Darrell Tebblum. I've been the vice chair for the last few years. I'm actually shocked. I've never seen so many people in the room. That's really a nice sign. You've accomplished an awful lot of things on this board committee, and I'm looking forward to the next year.
I'm Mary Watford. I'm a new member, and I'm a retiree, so I can participate in this. I previously worked for the Florida Department of Education, and I administered a 7-county, 1 of 6 organizational areas in the state of Florida. Look forward to being here.
My name is Tamika Seaton. I'm a transit. I came from Los Angeles about 16 years ago, lived in Naples 13, and Stereo for 3. I have 2 high schoolers in the school district, and this was a way to get involved and learn more about the community.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Joel Gordon. I'm new to town. I'm a new member as well. Just moved to town 5 months ago from Sarasota. 25-year banker, and so got relocated with my company, BB&T, so happy to be here.
Ryan Lurie. I was born here at Fort Myers, lived here the majority of my life. I have 2 daughters who are in elementary school. I'm passionate about public schools. I'm in finance, and thought this would be a good way to provide some input and feedback in any way I can.
I'm Ken Boyd. This is my 4th year on the committee. Had 2 boys in high school in New York. They graduated 2 years ago in college now. A lot of finance background, banking in New York, 10 years in private in Cargill, and now I own my company here, and 20 years here in Fort Myers.
My name is Alex Drzanski. I'm the assistant principal at Hunters Marshall Middle School in Lehigh. I have 26 years in education, and I've served on the Construction Advisory Council, as well as quite a few other committees, and I was just looking to branch out and get into the financial.
My name is John Shannon. This is my 2nd year on the committee. Semi-retired, moved here 3 years ago, and was, I have 1 child in Lexington Middle School, and another one in Fort Myers.
Hi, my name is Anna Phillips. I'm a new member. Well, I'm a mom with a 1st grader here in South District. I'm also a foster mom, and I have an extensive career in financial control. I like to control.
My name is Bill Tubb. I started on this committee when Jim, our former superintendent, Crowder was an assistant superintendent and sitting in Kelly's chair. That's been a while. I retired about 3 years ago as executive director of financial services for the school district. So for several years, I sat in Kelly's chair. I was on the committee for several years, and was chair for a couple of years, and then I left the committee to be treasurer for the political action committee for all the schools for the future, which works on the Hampton sales tax. And now they're talking about.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Patriga. I'm your Lee County School Board liaison. I sit on
on the school board from District 3, which is Estero, Benita Springs, South Fort Myers Beach. And I'm very competitive. So if my board chair wasn't seated to my right behind me, I would say,
Don't use me like that.
I would.
It's never stopped you before.
If she wasn't sitting there, I would say I believe this is the best advisory committee in the school district because, Paul, I don't think you gave this committee enough credit. 3 major, huge recommendations have come out of this committee. The first is naming rights on our arbitoriums and our gymnasiums and sports fields, stadiums. The second is the half-penny sales tax, and the third is an operational audit, which has really morphed into a permanent internal audit function in the school district. So I believe in you and the work that you do, and I have read all of your applications, and I believe there's a high degree of understanding of finance. There is a difference between public and private financing, and we may struggle a little bit with that in the beginning, but no pressure. I would love to help you guys find us more efficiencies in the system and ways to put more money into classrooms, more dollars into classrooms so that we're better serving our students. I don't know if you all recently saw the article, I think it was Wink News that carried it, 540 some odd of our students scored a perfect score on the FSA. And that we're seeing our students move forward academically every day, and the more resources we can put toward them, the better they will continue to be. So I want to thank you genuinely for your service. This is very important work that you're doing, not just for the students, but for the entire community. And I'm encouraged by the number of people in the room, and my challenge to you is have this number of people in the room in June. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Mike's Timotopoulos. I'm a new member. I have 2 children in middle school in the district. I'm in real estate now, but for 27 plus years, I was in management consulting and IT executive. So just a lot of background managing large budgets, and I thought I wanted to contribute to help since I got 2 kids in the school district.
My name is Craig Evans, and I've got 2 kids, 2 children, 2 girls in middle school within the Lee County school system. I guess I'm an entrepreneur. I own 5 businesses, ranging from construction to the beauty industry to 2 software companies. So that's what we do.
Hi, my name is Ramey Hall. This will be my 6th year serving on the committee. I have 2 children, one in middle school and one in high school, and I run a real estate business here in Fort Myers, and I am a product of the Lee County school system. I've lived here my whole life, and now my kids are getting educated here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. Nice to see you all and meet you all, and I'm so happy to have you here. Our next order of business is to elect the officers so that I can hand this over to the new chair. So do we have any nominations for a chair or anyone who would like to be a chair?
Yes, I nominate Daryl Tebblum for chair.
Okay, we have Daryl as a nomination. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Come on. Anybody else? Okay. Wow. I'm sorry. You'll second it? Okay, so we have Daryl as the nominee. Can everyone take a vote? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Now we have the vice chair. Can I have some nominations for vice chair?
Can I nominate Mr. Tubbs? Let's bring him back the right way. If that's okay with him.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Do we have any other nominees? No one else? Seeing no one else, can I have a vote for Mr. Tubb for vice chair? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Mr. Tubb is our vice chair. And on that, I will hand it over to Mr. I'm always saying Tebble, but I know it's not right. So, and I'm going to get the attorney on the phone. So in just a minute.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to be picking our dates for future meetings. I believe we all have tentative dates in front of us. I do have a question about one of the dates, Mark.
Okay.
The March 18th date, that is the date where most of us are parents in here of children in the system, and that's when everyone's on spring break. I was wondering if we could do it the week before or the week after, if that's possible.
May I speak with Chris, please?
Does everybody agree with that or something?
Yeah, definitely.
I figured that's the time when a lot of people are gonna do vacations or something, or have company.
So what would be the best?
Hey, Chris and Kelly, how are you?
Doesn't bother me if it's the
I'm just gonna
11th
put you
or
on
the
hold, and
25th.
when I pick you back up, you will be on the speakerphone with the committee.
Probably the week after.
The week after?
Seeing February 19th, it just seems like it's only.
Then let's do March 25th then.
Yeah.
March 25th? March 25th is the change.
Okay, I have Mr. Saunders, can we?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Chris, are you ready? Okay, hold on, let me put the volume up, you're kind of hard to hear. Okay, one more time, can you say something? Can you all hear him?
Hearing you.
Let's see if I can't put the there. Okay, one more time, can you say something? Okay. Can you hear him now? Okay, if you can talk louder, they're having trouble hearing you.
Sure, not a problem. Is that better?
Drop the mic and over there. It goes around your neck. It's right.
So this is?
Yes.
See?
You stick it right on the phone and should magnify it.
Kelly, just let me know because I can try and move.
Okay, now try it.
All right, that's it.
Is that better? Okay, there you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for having to do this by phone. My wife is having some medical issues and she hasn't been discharged from the hospital. Nothing serious, but it required me to be here, so I apologize for that. I really was looking forward to meeting all of you and running through this together, but I did want to be on the phone in case there were any questions. And I'll just say for now, as I go through this, if I do get too low, anybody can yell at me to tell me to speak up. It's totally fine.
Yeah, we're still having problems, so give me just a second here.
Sure.
Okay, try it one more time.
Okay.
Say something.
And, okay, one.
You can say your ABCs. Okay, one more time.
All right, 1, 2.
Okay.
Better?
Yeah.
It's a little better.
No, on his speaker.
Are you on your speakerphone, Chris?
I am not.
There you go.
Is that better?
So,
Okay, I think we got it right there. There you go.
Okay. All right, is everybody able to at least hear what sounds like a vague mumble?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well, my name is Chris Saunders. I work with the School Board Attorney's Office here at West Shore to help me. And again, I apologize for not being there. And I'm going to run through a little bit of kind of like the rules of the road for the committee. So hopefully you've got the little cheat sheet that we put together. Has those copies been handed out, Kelly?
Actually, the cheat sheet's up on the board and I emailed it to you all. You may not have gotten it before you got here to the meeting, so you will have it at home. If you haven't, or if you have your device where you can access your email, you should be able to access it as well. Thank you.
So it's real short, and I think it's really just it's going to highlight what it is that we're going to talk about today, and I'll be as brief as I can. So. The goal of the Finance Committee is to provide, input and support in the preparation of the operating and capital budget for the school district. And policy 1.20 kind of outlines the community involvement and the different committees that the school board consists of. And you may Many of you may already be familiar with them. There are a number of committees, and they all kind of have guidelines for how they're going to be organized. So generally, the committee members serve 2-year terms, so your appointment is effective essentially until September 2019 or 2020, depending on when you were appointed. Consistency is important. Consistency in attendance is something, that is really important for all committees in order to make sure that, that the work that the committee has before them can get done. So, somebody who misses 3 absences during the school year will ultimately end up being removed from the membership. Every committee has a chair and a vice chair, and so the role of those two members is really to make sure that the agendas get set for the meeting. They'll typically be the ones that will meet with the board member liaison and help direct the work of the committee. So there's a board liaison there, and the committee also has a staff liaison, as you know, to kind of help guide the work and give you any administrative insight you might need in order to make a decision about something that's going to be before you. You may end up having more than one staff liaison depending on the project or depending on the issues that you've got to deal with. But typically, you'll definitely have at least one. So, one of the things that you've got to do, when you first get together as a body is make sure that you guys can meet again as a body. So, one of the things that you've got to make sure you get done today is to, establish, dates for future meetings, and times, for those meetings, and if you're going to, how you're going to govern public comment. Now, some of you might be familiar with that, especially if you've seen a school board meeting. That's something that you may have, you may be familiar with. That's something that state law requires, and it's something we'll talk about a little bit later. So meetings are required to be held in September, October, November, January, February, March, and April. So, so those meetings you've got to meet at least once during those times, and ultimately there is a reporting requirement when each committee will make a report to the school board at least quarterly at a board briefing meeting, just to kind of summarize the work that's been done. Oftentimes the chair will end up doing that. Sometimes the vice chair, there's conflict. So that's something that as a committee you've got a responsibility for. The other responsibilities that committees that you have as a committee member, a lot of them flow from state law. You may not be an official school board member, but in the state of Florida, you are still considered an appointed official that's essentially subject to the same regulations and rules that your school board members that appointed you are subject to. So that means that you've got to follow the ethics rules the same way that any other public official would. It also means that you've got to follow the public meeting laws, and you can be subject to the public records laws as well, depending on what they are. We'll talk a little bit about each of those. But I'm going to start with the conflicts of interest, sort of realm of this. This is the ethical, the ethical consideration that you have as an official. So your role, as a member of the committee, is essentially, to look out for the best interests of the school board. You are an advisory committee. That means that you don't have any sort of final say as a school board member would. But your role is essentially to recommend, to provide recommendations to the school board for their consideration. And so, that's considered, that's a big job. It is a big job. And every committee in that regard has a big job. And so the state of Florida wants to make sure, that when you vote, you're voting in the best interest of the committee, you're voting in the best interest of the school board. So you've essentially, there are a number of things that you've got to watch out for with regard to this. And mainly they have to do with whether or not you would personally benefit from a vote. And so if you have a situation where there's an item before you, and you as a member, your employer may benefit from you voting, then you've got to abstain. You cannot vote on that because that could be perceived as a conflict of interest. Even if you don't really have, a vested interest in the direct or will directly benefit from whatever's before the committee. The law says that that's something that you need to watch out for. You can't participate in the discussion of that item if there's a potential conflict, other than to basically tell everybody else that you've got a conflict. Ideally, conflict should be disclosed prior to a meeting, and hopefully in writing. But a lot of times, you'll see, elected officials and subcommittee members just disclose that, at the time that the item comes up. That's okay, but we would love, if you know that it's coming and it's something that you've either got a question about or you know for a fact it's going to be an issue, letting your staff liaison know, is a great way to just head that off. The other thing that you should be mindful of is, doing business with the school district. So if you or your family have a contract with the district, or somebody has like a material ownership interest in the business that's trying to do business with the district, that could be considered a conflict. It's worth asking a question. If you see that situation come up, that's something that you might want to pick up the phone and ask Kelly whether or not that's something worth bringing to us, to talk about or help guide you. That's something that you want to just take a minute to think about if that situation goes around. I'll stop there just for a quick second to see if anybody has any questions and to see if I've lost anybody because you can't hear me.
Any questions? I see no questions. I think you're good to go.
Am I good to go, Kelly?
Yes, no one has any questions and we're hearing you fine.
Got it. Awesome. All right. So the next few things are kind of the biggies. Not to say that ethics isn't a biggie, because it certainly is. But the rules and the law that governs sunshine law as well as public records are something that can pose issues almost daily for elected officials and committee members. So the sunshine law, the open meetings law, it was named fittingly by the legislature the sunshine law because of the sunshine state, which is definitely a dad joke, but the legislature did do its best to make essentially one of the broader sort of sunshine law or open meetings laws that we have in the country, and really the gist behind that, some of you may have heard this before, is really to make sure that any business that's done by a public board is done out in the open, so the public knows what's going on and they have the opportunity to ask questions or voice their support or opposition to something that is being decided. It's something that the law tries to take pretty seriously. So basically, if two or more members of any of the same committee want to meet about committee business, and that's either business that is like going to be on the next agenda, for example, or something that is foreseeable that's going to come before you as a committee, that's got to be done in the sunshine. And by the sunshine, we mean a publicly noticed meeting that's open to the public and has minutes taken. So you've got to have something that's duly noticed. You've got to have a space for the public, and you've got to be taking minutes. This applies to a lot, guys. It really does. Most of us, we sort of operate on emails now, and if you send an email to a committee member about a potential agenda item, that is a violation. If you send a text, if you talk on the phone, if you Facebook message each other, or you do anything, through social media, that involves talking to another committee member, about committee business, that would be considered a sunshine violation. That's something that has to happen at a public meeting, at a noticed meeting that's open to the public where minutes are taken. Now, if you were talking about, showing up at a Christmas party together, or you're in another organization and you're not talking about committee business, that's a different thing. That's perfectly fine. The law acknowledges essentially that, you as a local committee members may run into each other in the public, and that's all right. It doesn't mean that you've got to put a wall between the two of you, for every single situation that could potentially come up. So if you're at a public meeting, that's totally fine. If you are talking about any sort of two-way communication, that's an issue unless it's not related. And if you send, a one-way communication, technically that's okay, but that's something that we generally discourage, because that can easily turn into two-way communication, which is something that, we try to make, which I like that is a violation. So we try to, we would definitely encourage you not to do, the one-way communication where you send an email that says, please don't respond. You can do it, it is fine, it is perfectly legal, but there is a risk there. So we often discourage that. So that generally an agenda will be prepared for your meeting. That's usually done by staff. You're required to vote unless you've got a conflict of interest, as I said. And this applies to any meeting. So if if for some reason you got the committee decides that they're going to go on a field trip somewhere, if there's going to be more than two of you, you got to be noticed, and the same requirements apply. Public comment is also required, so there has to be an opportunity for the public to speak at some point during the meeting. That's something that's usually decided, by the chair, and you put it on the agenda for when it's going to come up. Now, we can talk a little bit about communication. That's where the public records law comes in, and again, it is pretty broad. Basically, any record that you make that has to do with committee business, it is a public record. There are exceptions. There's quite a few exceptions, but that's the general rule. And so, you may be faced with a situation where somebody makes a public records request for some emails you sent regarding, the committee's discussion or, something, regarding, the budget from 2015, right? That's totally fine. If you send an email regarding that, as a committee member, it's definitely a public record. Public records have to be provided in a reasonable time. The statute does not define what reasonable is, which is definitely a subject of argument all the time. And if you've got a lot of copies, if there's something that, if there's sort of like a voluminous, record that's going to be responsive to somebody's request, charges, you can't charge, the district can't charge for copies of that. It doesn't matter what the motives are. It doesn't matter, who the person is. They don't even have to reveal themselves. They can be totally anonymous. They're not required to identify themselves. They're also not required to put their request in writing. If you end up, receiving a public records request for some reason, just feel free to contact the FAC on making get in touch with the public records manager. Okay. Last thing that we're going to talk about is the rules of order, the Roberts Rules of Order, which the school board has adopted with the exception of the quorum requirement. What this means is that all the committees in the district follow Robert's Rules of Order. To have a meeting, there does not generally, you typically need a quorum, but it's not necessarily required. The policy specifically exempts the committees from having a quorum. Basically, the goal of Robert's Rules is to allow for business to get done. So, this is where the chair, the chair has sort of a big role, and that's to, call the meeting to order, make sure that people are governing themselves professionally, and, you call to order any member who is sort of needs redirecting from a discussion. The chair is the one that recognizes speakers. The chair will call upon you, once you make it known that you want to speak. And a lot of people do that by raising their hands, especially if you don't have, any sort of button or mechanism to do that. Generally, the chair should allow a member to speak twice on the same issue, but that a lot of times that will apply to very, very large bodies, like we're talking like a legislature or Congress or something like that. The goal of Robert's Rules is to help you get business done the best way that you can. And so, speaking twice on an issue is what the chair needs to be reasonable. That's totally fine, and that happens a lot in smaller boards. As I said, generally, you want to make sure that you show up prepared, having read, any material that FAC has given you. And really, agenda items are handled by taking action through motion. So typically, somebody will move an item, say, some member will say, hey, I move for this to be approved. And, you need a second in order to have that done. And once you have a second, you have a discussion, and then ultimately, once there's no more discussion, the chair can call for a vote. An item will either pass or fail, usually by a simple majority. If there's a tie vote, that means that the motion fails. There's a lot of different crazy sort of motions, but really the main ones that you got to focus on are the motion to approve or a motion to deny. And if somebody wants to amend the motion, that can be something that another member proposes. So say member 1 makes a motion to approve, gets a second, and then there's a discussion, and then there's another a motion is made to amend the motion. That is, say you've got, I don't know, you've got some, a contract that you're going to recommend that the school board look at. You may want to add exhibits to that contract, or you may want to add, some additional information. You might want to move to amend, motion to recommend the school board looking at a contract to include some other document, right? That could be, technically, that could be, theoretically, that could be an amended motion. And you would vote on the committee would vote on the amended motion. Hopefully, there's a decision made. It's either approved or denied. If it's approved, then the amended motion becomes the main motion, and the committee will vote on the main motion as it's been amended. Those are two of the biggest, I think, most common uses of Robert's Rules, those particular motions. But there's others. If you want to table an item, there's one more time to decide. Somebody could move to table an item to defeat certain. It's usually typically that you gotta, you put the when it's going to be tabled and brought back. You can have a motion to reconsider an item. Usually that's an item that's already been decided, and a lot of, I believe that the rules state that it has to be made by somebody who was on the winning side of whatever motion there was. So, if there's a motion to approve, the person that could make a motion to reconsider would be the person that, somebody that voted to approve an item. And there's also points of order and information. There's no second necessary. Just basically saying, if there's somebody is speaking, and they're going off topic, another member could say, oh, I motion for a point of order, this is what we're talking about, and then the chair makes a ruling there. Those are the general sort of guidelines for Robert's rules. So that's really the way that that's really the way that they work. So if there are any questions about that, just shout them out.
Any questions? Nobody? Everybody's got that. Okay. I see no questions.
All right. Well, thank you guys. I apologize again. I'm really sorry that I couldn't be there. I was really looking forward to meeting all of you. If there are any questions, Kelly knows how to reach me. You have your cheat sheet in the email. You can review it. And if you've got any questions, just let me know. Good luck, and I hope you guys have a great meeting and a great rest of your night.
Thank you so much, Chris. Have a good evening.
All right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Okay, I guess we should open up for the approval of the minutes.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Reading through the minutes, the section relating to public comment, I would request that that be condensed. I'm just concerned about the precedent that it's going to set. There's an awful lot of information about a vendor that came in under the context of public comment, and we're now disclosing the name of the individual, the company he works for, and also the benefits of that particular company. And I just think it's opening up a bad precedent.
Motion to amend the minutes to include what Mr. Collins said? Will you amend your motion for that? No?
I'll second the discussion.
For second discussion? Okay. Anybody have anything else to add to this, or? From my standpoint, I do see what Mr. Cohen is saying. Makes an awful lot of sense that we are not giving a vendor any preferential treatment. We're really recognizing their business as offering a benefit when there were no other vendors present at the time. Other than that, that's all I have to say on that.
Well, as a presentation and all pertinent to this committee, wouldn't that go before insurance and benefits to do an RFP and come up with them what was the purpose of the presentation?
They happen to be here the night of a presentation on benefits, and I'm not opposed to obviously putting in there that this individual spoke, was present, and I think we just keep the first line. I think it's fine, but the fact that he's talking about saving the district $15 million, and after handing out his literature, there was a lot more discussion. And my feeling is if we're gonna have that in there, I think we have to have the discussion there that, and I believe it was Ramey who raised a valid point, if I remember correctly, about she read through it and said, wait a minute, where are these savings that you're talking about? And I don't want to put words into your mouth, Ramey.
I'm okay with how it reads in the minutes. I would say if anything, if we need to redact a company name or something, just, I understand your point about people using it for a platform, but I don't have a problem with the information in there. But do we have a policy, like could we redact, maybe we don't put his name and his company in there, we redact one?
I pose that question, Kelly, to you and to Barb, so if you could shed light.
I don't know. I would have to talk to the attorney on what, if there is any restrictions on what you can and can't put in.
So I think they're your minutes.
Yeah.
It's your committee, they're your minutes to decide what's in there.
Can I ask a question? I'm a new member, so it's easy. I would have concerns that we actually have people coming forward, bringing their business and talking about avoiding the RFP process. And perhaps maybe it should have been handled a little bit different, but just from a new member.
Right, and we can't control what the public comes in. I mean, they get their minutes. I mean-
Line up every person for the company.
Yeah.
Everyone gets 3 minutes, just is what it is.
Right.
But putting them in the minutes and giving them extra publicity per se, is that something we want to set a precedent for, or?
I personally think if he appeared here, he should be in the minutes, because he was here and he did give a presentation, and the minutes reflect what happened at the meeting. It's just a summary or a synopsis of what happened at the meeting, so if you take it out, it's like he never existed, and that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah, I think that I'm presenting my thoughts clearly. Obviously he needs to be recognized. We recognize any member of the public that comes before this committee. But the verbiage that I'm seeing there is it's saying, from this company, introduce himself and started by referencing, and you can see his school district report. We've never had a member of the public come in bringing forth information that really should have been provided to the school board, not to this committee, unless requested by this committee to do so. That's what my concern is.
So what if we changed it to read that Mr. Curtis Colbert from Simplified Insurance Solution introduced himself and provided documentation on his business and ended it with that, took out the extras in there, would that be sufficient? Provided the information that he was here, he provided documentation, which I believe are also, he sent that to all the members as well, I believe. And as far as the RFP process, even if someone would recommend that we not do it, it is required by law, we would always do it. So it would not be an option for us.
Does it establish a precedent for other vendors to come in and take time so there are meetings for 6, 7 hour marathons?
Well, they're about 3 minutes as it currently stands with the rules that the committee has established before, so they could.
200 of them show up.
We got a problem.
Can we get a legal interpretation on how this committee should handle that kind of issue?
Yeah, moving forward, that makes an awful lot of sense. Let's find out what the district attorney thinks.
Any member of the public that makes a presentation, it's up to the committee whether the presentation they make is of value and the committee wants to pick it up. And at that point, the need of it would be in the minutes because the committee took it up. I would tend to think anybody from the public who makes a comment should be listed there. Joe Blow, or maybe some company made a comment, Sally Sue made a comment, somebody else made a comment. I think that's all that's necessary to be in the minutes, recognizing that those people made a comment.
Especially since our meetings are recorded, anybody who wants all the context of that discussion can easily gain access to the recording of the meeting.
So what are we looking for clarification, Mick, can I jump in? What are we looking for clarification for from the attorney? Are we looking for clarification as to what we should put in the minutes or how we should handle public comment / presentations from companies in the future?
Solicitations, I would think it's more of a solicitation, how we should reflect those solicitations in our minutes.
Okay.
Anybody object to that?
So maybe we table it for the next meeting.
We table the minutes, approval of the minutes until the next meeting? Do I hear a motion to table it? Motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next thing, do approval of future meetings so that we're able to advertise. The only change I wanted to make was the March 18th meeting to March 25th because many people will be away. Possibly even our liaison, depending on what is then for Christmas. Do I hear a motion to approve the new dates?
So
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Next up is As board members report?
Public.
Public comment, I'm sorry.
Hello, everyone. I think I've met most of you. My name is John Williams. I am a previous member of this committee and hopefully soon to come back if there is a vacancy. I'm here to support the efforts of this committee. It's done really awesome work in the past, and I look forward to the work that comes out of this committee each and every meeting. We have a really rigorous discussion and usually very solid recommendations that come out of here. And I'm proud to be a part of this in the past. I'm also on the Equity and Diversity Advisory Committee, and my member didn't think that I was allowed to serve on two. And so, anyway, hopefully I'll see you all. I haven't missed a meeting yet, so I hope to see you in the future, even if I am as a public.
I'm a public comment.
Your public comment.
Basically, I just wanted to come, first off, to welcome the new people that I have appointed to the committee. You don't have to fess up to me. But just to say you're in for a treat, and they're in for a treat to have you on this committee as well. I really look around the room, and I met some of you, and I realize it's going to be a very good year. And a lot of good work to be done in this district. And so we'll see how it goes forward the rest of the year. And thank you for letting me
Yes, you report this.
Okay, so I'm really sorry that was so boring. It is really boring material. I mean, parliamentary rules and Robert's Rules of Order are boring. However, I think this committee will appreciate this more than any other committee. We have the choice of having him on the telephone or having him travel here from the East Coast, times 6, because we have 6 committees. So I think it was much more cost effective to do that on the phone. What I'd like to boil it down for you, how I view Sunshine is I'm not on your committee, so I could talk to you guys about anything. But in terms of you guys talking to each other, emailing each other, texting each other, communicating with each other, football, family, fashion, and food. Those are the things you should talk about. You really shouldn't talk about any school district business because you never know what's going to come in front of this committee for a vote. And if one of your fellow committee members approaches you and starts to talk about something associated with the committee, you don't have to be like, "You're violating Sunshine!" Just say, "You know what, I think it's getting a little cloudy in here." And then change the subject. You know, you don't have to be aggressive about it. I should take my own advice, but anyways, just a couple. And then the other thing is I teach over at FGCU, I teach legal classes, and when it comes to ethics, bottom line is if it feels wrong, don't do it. So just follow those basic rules and you'll be great with all of that very stimulating material that the attorney just presented to you on phone.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna talk, but we won't talk, so it's okay. As long as you don't respond to me, we're good.
I don't even see
So the other thing too is last year this committee discussed using a separate personal email account for just committee business, so that if a public records request is made, you don't have to go through all of your personal email. Everything will be right there in your, like I would do chrispatricafinanceadvisory@gmail.com. Like that would be my email for this committee. Does that make sense? Totally personal choice. If it's something that you want to do, great. Make sure you get the ladies the information if you do change your email address so that they'll know how to get in touch with you. I am only on this committee for one more month. October, I'm not on the committee. I'm your liaison for one more month. In November, we do a board reorg, and I will be assigned to a different committee. This is the end of my second year on this committee. And I had to fight kind of hard to get a second year. A third year is not going to be possible. And frankly, it is important for me to move on to other areas of the district and gain some expertise there as well. So you'll be getting a new member in November. But what I would like to say to you is going forward, keep in the back of your mind the importance of the teacher pay issue in the district. You all know, who were on this committee last year, you know that we made significant cuts in the budget to free up money for teacher pay. And our goal was to get teachers to the 75th percentile as compared to other teachers across the state. Well, that was great based on last year's numbers, but Charlotte County just passed a 1.0 mil, and now their teacher pay is significantly higher than ours. And we saw 18 successful referendums across the state, so other districts are getting an infusion of cash for the operating dollars. Now, the half-penny sales tax was only capital. Other districts now have operating dollars that we don't have access to, so they've been able to increase their teacher pay, making it very difficult for us to compete to keep good teachers in Lake County. So if you can keep in the back of your mind, how are we going to increase teacher pay based on the amount of money that we are permitted to get from the state, that's something that would be super helpful, I know, to me as an individual board member. So if you could keep thinking about that, that would be great. And the final thing I want to talk to you about, and it's gone, is our legislative platform. It has been approved by the school board, and we have one local issue, and that is kind of like a pilot comprehensive health plan or health program. The word pilot is not in the legislative platform, but think of it in those terms. We are asking the state for anywhere from $893,000 to $1.79 million to $2.5 million, depending on the level that they approve. And what we're trying to do is provide our students with a comprehensive health education to include mental and emotional health, which I don't know that there's anyone in this room that would disagree that that's absolutely necessary for our students at this point. And we're hopeful, given the fact that Senator Pasadomo is a huge supporter of mental health funding, and she is part of our delegation, and she's also part of leadership. We're hopeful that this will go somewhere. The reason for the 3 different levels of funding is one would provide education in 8th grade, one would provide education in 7th and 8th grade, and the third most expensive one would provide that education in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Does that make sense? In addition to that, we have several state issues, and it's right there on our legislative platform, and I'm not going to read them to you, but I will tell you 2 developments at the state level for coming out of committee are an early signal that they're going to infuse some money or resources into early childhood education. I think we all know preparedness for kindergarten is a significant determination or determining factor in whether students are going to be successful. So they're looking at putting money into it, but also measuring success and measuring gains for our pre-K kids across the state. And the second one is that, and this is, I don't know much about this, but I'm going to throw it out there. Manny Diaz, who I think is out of Miami-Dade, has made a proposal to limit the amount of money that senior citizens have to pay in taxes, which would obviously significantly impact education funding. So I want you to keep that in the back of your mind. And at some point, we may come to you and say, listen, we need your help. We need you to reach out to your legislators, not just here in Lee County, but across the state. Because you guys on this committee are going to have a better understanding of how dollars impact kids than anybody else. So we might be calling on you for some help with legislative advocacy. That's all I really have for you tonight. Does anybody have any questions for me? I promise you that telephone call is not into your future. It gets much more fun than what you heard on that telephone call. Thank you.
Hey, we just all have to come to a meeting with Keith Martin.
Well, that's true. That's true. That's true. Keith Martin is our former board attorney who was probably the most knowledgeable board attorney in the state of Florida. I am not exaggerating, but one of the driest human beings on the face of the planet. So, thank you.
Very good at his job.
He was very good.
Can I just add one more thing on the email? If anyone on the committee sends an email, you all have everybody's email now that Barb has been sending you those massive emails that you love getting so much. If anyone sends something out, please do not respond to it. If you want to have a discussion, it's here. It should not be done by email, and that we've had that issue before. Just so I want to make sure we were clear. Thank you.
Next up, we should discuss what we're going to be discussing in future meetings, planning sessions. I'd personally like to start with requesting for next month on the budget to bring everyone up to date on our revenue sources as well as our expenditures. Figure that would probably be the easiest, probably the smartest way to begin. Does anybody questions, concerns, or other ideas moving forward with other ones?
And let me show you in preparation for the next meeting, if you all would like. If you go out to our webpage and the little budget thing right here, if you click on it and you come in, you have our current budget information. Here is our final budget book, and this was the budget that the board just approved. And anything and everything you could ever want to know about the budget, and then some, is in this document, and it's loading right now, so it's going to take a while. I'm sorry? Quite a bit. No, 172. I've read this before backwards and otherwise, so.
Is there a certain subset of that, and something we should try to be more intimate with for the next meeting?
The financial section is probably the area that you would like to look at, and that will give you all of the financial information that you want. The rest of it is more about the organization of the district. It has student achievement stuff in it and just some information. In the information section, there is things on the millages and things like that that you might find interesting as well. So I would probably focus on financial and informational to get you a little bit of heads up on the stuff that we'll be talking about.
Chris, I think it would be best coming from you, if you don't mind, to share with everybody. Because one of the areas everybody's, I think, going to look at is capital. And if you could share, since you're the liaison to the Oversight Committee for the, I think, the sales tax.
Can I play with this? I have Mac, so this might take some time. How are we gonna manage that? Okay, so this is our website. It's www.leeschools.net. If you go to this first tab, Our District, and go down to, see where it says Change for Change, and then go all the way down to Tracking Your Tax Dollars, there's a fantastic website that shows you how much money is projected to come in, how much money has already come in, and then if you go over here, it shows you projected projects, what we're gonna spend money on. And then you can drill down even further by going up here and going to a school. Let's choose Manatee Elementary. Manatee Elementary is projected to spend $1,637 in the upcoming year on safety projects.
That was actually last year's information. We are in the process of putting this 1920 on there. It should be on there next week.
1920.
That's fiscal year 20. 2019, 2020.
And then, what's the other thing I wanted to show you here? Okay, Change for Change, and then.
What was the way to get to the plans the first time?
You can actually do it straight from the when you go into the site, the bottom right corner, you know where I showed you where the money sign was, to the far right, it's the sales tax dashboard. So it's the same, yeah, you just go down and see right there, right in the middle there, you see what the money sign was that I showed you, far to the right.
Your budget, okay.
It says sales tax dashboard, and you click there and it takes you right where she was.
Learn something new every day. I should get there.
It's the easiest way.
So that is the easiest way to get there. The other thing that's here is there a direct link to the sales surtax oversight committee here, or do I have to go through this one?
I think you might have to go through the district to get to that.
Okay, the other thing is the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee, also known as ISOC. That is a group of, is it 15? Community leaders. And when I say community leaders, I mean people whose names you will likely recognize, who bring automatic credibility to that committee. That committee reports to you. That committee doesn't report to me. I have nothing to do with that committee. That committee works directly with staff, and they gather the information they need in order to be able to tell you, the taxpayers, how this money is being spent. What they do is two things. Each meeting, they make two motions. One is to say, yes, looking forward, the expenditures that the district is planning to make with those half-penny sales tax dollars are in line with what the voters approved. They are in line with that list of projects that were associated with the referendum that you all either approved or didn't approve, but the majority of the taxpayers approved. So that's one, a prospective look, and the other is looking back. The money that has already been spent, those half-penny sales tax dollars that have already been spent, yes, those dollars were spent in accordance with the language of the referendum, or no, they weren't. So far, we've had one meeting where they took action and they voted yes prospectively, the upcoming projects are referendum approved projects, and yes, the money that has already been spent are approved referendum projects. Does that make sense? Their meetings are televised, so you can go on our website and you can see their meetings. Obviously, their meeting dates are right there. Everything is as transparent as we know how to make it. If you have suggestions on how a better way for us to get this information out, that's great. They meet quarterly. I will have my last meeting with the Independent Sales Surtax Oversight Committee next week, and then the new liaison to Finance Advisory will take over, and they will be the liaison to that committee.
So just for context, that sales tax, that's like a dollar amount every year, right?
Yes.
Okay, how big is that compared to the annual operating budget? Like
The
proportionally,
annual
is it like?
operating budget. So it is, let me go over here and I'll show you.
I'm just curious, is like, did the sales tax double the amount of dollars, it's equal to the operating budget for capital improvements? Is it only like 10% of the operating? I'm just curious about that.
So what are we looking at projected to come in a year? How much, I know.
Projected, I think we're looking at about $80 million in projected revenue for FY20, fiscal year 20, the year that we're in. We're estimating about $84 million.
That's the sales tax. And how does that compare to the annual operating budget?
The operating budget, just the operating budget for the district is $923 million.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't include any capital. The total budget for the district is $1.6 billion. And that makes about $84 million.
We have lost about $200 million in capital funding, which is why we went up to the taxpayers and asked for a half-penny sales tax. If that helps you to understand, we lost $200 million and now we've got $80 million coming back, but it still doesn't give us everything we need.
Yeah, I mean, but so just for context, though, where we to focus our energy, that $80 million is only a tenth of the entire operating budget.
Yeah, yes, but two completely different stuff.
Yeah, the 80 million can only be spent for one specific purpose. That's a capital.
Correct.
And it's those specific projects on the list that were approved by, I'm sorry, was there another question?
The $80 million is also safe from the legislature cutting it.
Yes.
That was the problem. They kept cutting the capital portion of the budget. So there's less and less and less. This is secure. So even if they cut more, this stays the same.
And the $200 million that was lost, where was that from?
That, we used to have a 2.0 mil for capital, and they decreased it 0.25 one year, 0.25 another year, promised to give it back later. So now we're at 1.5 mil. And also, we used to get public education capital outlay PICO dollars for capital, and all of that money is now given to charter schools, and traditional public schools get none of it. And we're talking about this. There are a couple of issues that we have with the legislature. For instance, the size of buildings, the size of classrooms. They require us to build buildings in a certain way that don't necessarily meet the needs of students. So part of our legislative platform is for them to put together a task force and look at those requirements and see if it even makes sense for us to spend money the way we're being told to spend money. Another issue is, and I think we've talked about this in this committee before, we have SREF requirements. I don't know what SREF stands for, but that basically tells us how we have to build our buildings. Now, we can operate outside of SREF requirements. So we have per student station requirements. We can't spend over a certain amount of money for each student station that we build, unless the money comes from different sources. It used to be that if money came from a local half-penny sales tax source, we could build whatever building we wanted to build. The legislature changed that last year and said the only way that you can go above that per student station maximum is if you take out certificates of participation, which are more expensive than bonds, that ultimately is costing the district about $1 million extra in order to build high school MMM, for example. And understand that that per student station maximum that they have in place is completely unrealistic. There is no school district in the state of Florida that can build a school under that per student station required amount. So another piece of our state legislative platform is for them to please take a look at that and put a more realistic number out there for us to actually be able to comply. Does that make any sense?
Is that number that's too low set and there was no accounting for inflation, or was it already set inappropriately even when it was passed into law?
I can't tell you if it was set inappropriately, but I can tell you that it doesn't take into account the fact that it's more expensive to build a school here in Lee County than it is to build a school in Hendry County, for example. Because we have a huge building boom and a growth issue going on here that's not going on in Hendry County. So they give the same number to the entire state, and it's not doable here in Lee.
So even a rural or urban, within Miami has the same
Correct.
limit, which would be probably more expensive in
Correct.
areas.
Yeah, exactly. Yes?
Does that include the safety issues that, to harden our schools, to make them safer with the windows and all that?
Yes,
Do
we
we
do.
get extra funding for that?
We do get some extra funding for that, but not enough to meet the state requirements for hardening our buildings. So they have given us some money, and we have also gotten some grant money for that. We sought, we went after Daryl, and after this initiative that Daryl's very passionate about, we did go after some grant money, and we have used that as well. But safety and security upgrades are one of those specific items on the half-penny sales tax list. So we are putting significant resources toward that. For example, I want to say there used to be 30-something cameras at Estero High School, and now we have more than 130. And that's hugely helpful, not just to catch bad behavior, but to deter bad behavior.
And the plan is to do that school by school.
Correct. Starting high, going to middle, and elementary. That's why when you go into that half-penny sales tax, and you go into elementary schools, you're gonna be like, they're not spending any money in our elementaries. That's because we're trying to do the safety and security. That's a priority. We've got a priority. Prioritize our schools where those issues are more likely to occur first.
Chris, one question. Legislatively, wouldn't it pay to try to get legislation passed to put the public schools on the same platform as the charter schools when it comes to building requirements? The charter schools built Oasis High School for around $11 million, and you guys built Island Coast, I believe, the same year or within a year or two for over $50 million. And because we were obviously forced to, with different building restrictions, wouldn't that pay to be a new legislative priority to bridge that gap and to make it that every school, no matter public or charter school, has to conform?
So if I can,
No.
so actually, they did pass some legislation this last session that allows school districts to build on the same basis or have some of the same rules way that charter schools do. However, in order to do that, you have to have met all of the needs of your sheltering for the county. Lee County does not have all of their sheltering needs met. We have a big county, and while we have a lot of schools, a lot of them are in zones that we can't put people in because they're not safe. So until Lee County, and we can work to get the number of sheltering schools that we need, we are waived from not being able to have that same benefit as. Shelters, if a hurricane comes, the shelters that we have, you have to have a certain number of shelters. Schools are used as shelters, and so because we do not have enough of the required shelters here in Lee County, we cannot build our schools to the same standard as charters. We must build them to a higher standard.
So if Lee County had other buildings not affiliated with the school district at all that acted as shelters, that would allow the schools to be built here under different rules?
Yes.
That just sounds stupid.
Well, look at the city of Cape Coral. The only one is Island Coast High School.
Right.
The entire city of Cape Coral, the only place in the city that's safe with a hurricane as a shelter is Island Coast High School.
Everything.
You have all those other schools.
Right.
The
It's a
logic
problem.
of why, so you're telling me you can have a charter school in this county and a non-charter school in this county, and shelters, which is a topic independent of schools, because the county doesn't meet the minimum requirement of shelters, then the public school needs to be built to a different standard than a charter school in the same district.
Exactly.
That's illogical.
Drop 50 to 70 million more for the public school than the charter school puts us at a completely uneven footing.
So the current laws are that
Yes,
dumb?
Also,
yes. That's why I asked the question. I understood it, and I specifically asked that on purpose.
the state legislature, in their infinite wisdom, is trying to force the district to give some of its capital money to charter schools.
Yeah.
Who are private industries and can build a building, go out of business and sell the building and keep the money.
And then we still have to bring those students in. If they close the doors tomorrow, the city of Cape Coral, we have to bring those students in the next day.
But we can't use those buildings.
Exactly. And those buildings would cost more to fit them to what we would be able to do than it would just to build new ones.
So if they were to go out of business, we can't use that building.
Exactly.
So let me give you my political perspective on your question. My political perspective on your question is that the leadership of the state of Florida wants charter schools. So if I walk into a room advocating for students in Lee County for changes to charter schools, I'm making them angry just by breathing. And if I want to get the other things that I know we have a chance of getting for our kids, I've got to fight the battles that I might have a chance of winning. Charter schools is not a battle that I have a chance of winning with the current leadership at the state level.
Yeah, I guess my saying something was stupid is in regards to charter schools, it's in regards to rules being different. That's not pro or against.
I understand, but any mention of charter schools, any mention of charter schools is not, you cannot have that conversation right now at the state level.
You're gonna get shot down.
Correct.
The political landscape's very ugly towards public schools.
And it's taken me a while to understand that. It's taken me a while to understand that we have to talk about the things that they're willing to talk about, or we're going to suffer. Our kids are going to suffer as a result.
And they'll cut us a lot of years. We've been on this board watching them cut back on our funding year after year.
And why are they in favor of the charter schools?
There's a lot of reasons.
Yeah, what they say is school choice, and I'm a conservative just like they are, and everything that they talk about with regard to benefits of charter schools exists here in Lee County. You have school choice here in Lee County. You also have built-in competition. There is, every principal in every one of our buildings wants to be the most selected school. So they might not be nasty fighting with the other principals of the other buildings, but they for sure are putting their best foot forward and trying to create programs that are going to serve the educational needs of the students in the community. So I've asked that question. I don't know. I can tell you the pessimistic side of me looks at their donor lists, and a lot of them are associated with charter schools, and looks at their spouses. A lot of their spouses sit on the boards of charter schools. So the pessimistic side of me looks at those, and it's difficult for me to overlook those connections in terms of the decision making at the state level. Yes?
Is the county responsible for shelters?
The county is responsible for shelters, however, when Irma came, 12 of our buildings were used to shelter 24,000 Lee County residents, and our staff ran those shelters. The county did not run those shelters, our staff did. And I can say that from personal experience. I worked at the South Fort Myers High School shelter, and we didn't have the training, but we had the heart, we got it done.
You did an amazing job.
An
Our
incredible,
staff did an amazing
incredible
job.
Incredible.
Has there ever been talks between the commission and the school district?
Yes, there have been talks, and we were brought in on training after Irma. I mean, I sat in on the training, it was just not.
Toilet paper is delivered after 2 days.
Yes.
We had 2,300 at Harms Marsh Middle, and without any training, without our staff of teachers that stepped up, we never been able to do it. And we just banded together and we made it happen.
That's exactly what you
24 hours a day. There was no break for them.
It was truly amazing, and I will tell you that in building high school MMM, the commission has come at us and they don't want to assume the financial responsibility for making that building hurricane proof, shelter ready.
To throw this out, I just was gonna bring this up later, but I was doing some research on the school reconfiguration, and I came across an article about Texas and how they use monolithic domes for the gymnasiums, and they're rated 150 miles an hour, and they got 75% of them paid for by FEMA. So that's something maybe we could look into for some of the newer schools.
Can you email that to me?
Yeah, I'll give you a copy. It's $125 a square foot to build one of these domes.
Nice.
Maybe the people think that in operation.
I've never heard it, which doesn't mean that. Great.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, after the hurricane with the schools, they were not ready for students to come back to school either.
Correct.
Because
Yeah.
of the,
And our administrative staff and custodial staff was still working, even though I can speak from my own experience, our houses were still damaged. So we had nowhere to go back to for a home, but we were still trying to work on our buildings to try to get our buildings. So
Yeah, I mean,
it was a tough situation.
you had principals with, what are those things called, chainsaws? Leslie Gunderson at Pinewood Elementary was out on her property, operating a chainsaw. You know, it was just, it was hard. That was all it was. These people are true public servants. And I had never seen it to the extent until we went through that experience. It was amazing.
It's just like being up 24 hours a day. You know you're tired when you start talking to another staff member, and then they walk in the room after
Okay, let's get back to planning sessions for the next few months. Oh, one more thing, Jim?
Goes back to about 15 minutes ago. We talked about the fact that the millage rates had dropped, which took so much out, and the half-cent added 80 million in. Is there memorialization somewhere of how all that worked? I think you might have maybe used it in some of your charts to sell that. You just can't people around how all this works. It's great to send through. I said it was talking about here.
So we started out with 2 mills, and along with that 2 mills, we had people with education capital outlay for maintenance. We had also had people from the schools that we provided. We had classrooms for kids funds that we were provided to help with the growth in the counties as it happened. And basically everything just kind of stopped at one time. They dropped the 2 mills to 1.75. The legislators moved it to operating because we were having difficulty operating, and at the time we were providing all those other resources, capital dollars were, abundant, and then when they did that, everything else started dropping. And then they ended up dropping it to 1.5, and it has stayed there ever since.
It's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
And I used the number on the old budget book, but I don't know.
Could you tell us the year that it first dropped?
2008, property tax.
So this was during the recession, it dropped, right?
Yeah, there's a page in the budget book, and it's.
There's
informational sections too.
It was precipitated by the value of real estate dropping, the collection of property taxes dropping, and suddenly none of the school districts in the county can make the payroll. So they figured, okay, here's some money we can go over back teachers and pay the staff. So they did, it works well, they did. It was supposed to be a temporary thing, and it never was restored.
If you look right here, this is when it happened. So we were at 2 mills, it dropped to 1.75 there, and it dropped to 1.5. Here they moved it to 1.25, did a critical needs village and an operating fund. They bumped it back to 1.5, and it has stayed consistently at 1.5 ever since.
Sales pitch.
I don't have that one on me. We do have that where we can show through the years, the funding levels, how they went down.
This is the standard numbers for all 4 school districts.
No, this is the county.
So we see legislature, which is not coming for the state.
Yes,
They said if our county said we're going to reduce it in this amount.
No, No, so capital millage is the same in every county unless someone goes out for a special additional millage for capital. So the capital millage rate that you see is the same for every school district. Correct. So that one is. The required local effort millage is the portion that the state determines based on the county and the property taxes, whether it goes up or down. That one is the one that is mandated by the state that the school districts must levy, and they give us the amount that we must levy. As property taxes go up, the value of properties go up, our millage rate will drop. You can see the last few years we have dropped quite a bit. As property values are going up, the millage rate is dropping. And then there's the discretionary millage at 0.748, which the board has the discretion to levy, and that one has stayed the same for the years as well.
If you'll notice, you can look at your county tax bill from the county commission, and they will tell you we're not raising your taxes. And they're not raising your taxes because they're not increasing their millage rate. They have discretion, they set their millage rate. We don't, we have to set that millage rate where the state tells us to set it. So they'll tell you, we're not raising your taxes, when in fact you're paying more in taxes because there has been an increase in taxes. We are at a disadvantage, we are not permitted by the state to capture that growth in the tax roll because they, year after year after year, roll back that required local effort to be at the place where we were last year to bring in the exact same amount of revenue we brought in the year before.
Paid to inflation at all?
No.
Well, that's,
It's not, and the reason it's not the same thing for counties is that's the way they supplement our other counties that have less real estate value. So our millage rate and their millage rate changes and they get more money than we do per dollar because they're helping fund their schools that way.
so that,
Major disadvantages.
it's sounds like bad loss. It's good not to. I mean, it's one thing to understand how to keep it flat, but the only thing logical is keeping it flat relative to inflation. That's logical. Keeping it flat, period. But I don't understand the logic in that.
I have this beautiful graph that shows the rate of inflation versus the increase that we have received in funding. And the difference between the two is significant. And this is where we are at such a significant disadvantage with regard to teacher pay because we have what's called the BSA, base student allocation, and then we also have categoricals. So the state gives us a certain amount of money and says you must spend this money this way. And then they give us some discretionary money. And that discretionary money is used to pay for everything else, like gas and electricity and teacher pay and support staff pay. And everything, the cost of gas goes up every year. So we have to pay for gas before we can give teacher raises. So the amount of money left every year for us to give teacher raises is almost non-existent. Last year, the increase in the BSA was 47 cents. This year, the state will tell you the increase is $75 per student, but if you take the required expenditures out of that $75, we're at around $35 per student increase. That's what we got from the state. I know, it's hard to.
I don't know if the other new people are going to have this question. I don't go into the land, I understand all the topic, which is going to generate a lot of questions that I don't think we're going to be able to cover in these meetings. And I got a little gun shy off the sunshine laws, which are very different than private sector. It's like, well, can't have a sidebar conversation. So if I really have a bunch of follow-up questions after trying to read this stuff, just to help understand better, how can I do that within the right sunshine laws?
So what you can do is.
Can I send you guys emails with just questions, and that's not discussing, I'm just asking
You
questions?
can send them to us, yes, you can send it to us as long as you don't have the discussion. We're non-voting, so we have no say in.
So this would just be educational, like I'm trying to get up to speed, I'm trying to learn this stuff, but I've seen it before, here's 20 questions I have. And that thing, the answer is going to spawn another 20 questions. So
This is why I suggested having budgeting for our first session, that way 2 hours of asking the question. We usually, 5:30 is the soft stop, 6 o'clock is usually a hard stop, unless we're still going at it. Anyone that has to leave, obviously we can leave, you have to leave early, but I figured next month would probably be sort of best time to more or less put aside close to 2 hours for budgeting and questions and catch everybody up. Because I was watching your face, you have a lot of questions you're trying to formulate, all right?
And if you want to send the questions when we have our meeting the next time, I'll make sure that I have all of the answers that you want to your questions for the next meeting.
It's, as many as I can. So this is information, so that's gonna be shared with other members here.
Yes, I'll bring all of the responses back to everybody.
But it's legitimate for each one of us to email them with our questions. They will email us back their answers one-on-one, and that's not a break of sunshine. Then we can discuss those questions and answers at the next meeting and share at that point.
As long as you don't discuss it amongst yourself or email each other, then you're okay. You can email me and I can email you back and forth all day long. I'm not a voting member, so there's nothing that I can do to sway the vote.
Inside this room, we can say anything. Outside this room, we can't say anything.
You had a question?
Yeah, in regards to teacher pay, you mentioned you'd like to get the 75th percentile in the state. Where did you come to that number? Is Lee County the top 25% of the cost of living in the state, or just curious how 75% became target?
We've done a market rate analysis on all of our categories of employees, from superintendent all the way down to, I don't know what our lowest level of employee pay is. I don't know, but we've done a market analysis and HR would have to tell you what factors were taken into consideration, but I do know cost of living was one of those factors.
We've seen corporations that do economic zones, they'll have like zone A, zone B, zone C, zone D, and the salaries will be driven in the private sector by how expensive that zone is. Do we know where our 75th percentile tracks nationally outside of the state?
No, I know statewide, we're in the 44th, 46th, the 44th or 46th in the country for teacher pay. But you know what, the other side of that coin is, I'm sorry, not for teacher pay, for per pupil funding. The other side of that coin is Education Week just said the state of Florida is fourth in the nation for education outcomes. So doing something very well, efficiently is good. However, if it's not sustainable because we can't keep our employees who are providing us with that outcome of fourth in the nation for education outcomes, that's where the problem comes in.
We had HR in here this last year, and Ms. Pro was talking, I believe the number she said was about 40% turnover at one point. It was a fairly, wasn't it 40? It was a very high number, because I'm pretty sure I looked at Ken when I saw that, and I was like, okay, what do you have to say on this? And it's pretty wild when you see how many teachers actually leave each school each year. And then they were short this last year or the previous year over 500 with a couple weeks left to go before school to fill those classrooms. And obviously, they don't fill those classrooms with full-time teachers.
Is there an exit survey that's
Yes.
provided, and is compensation the main driver of that 40% turnover?
Sometimes they're moving closer to home, sometimes
So
there's
what
always a
percentage is
reason.
compensation the driver of that turnover?
They want to know the answer, no matter if you're leaving good terms, bad terms, just a transfer, interdepartment transfer. Dr. Pruitt, who handles HR, they want to know that. And they always do an exit interview with every single employee.
No, yeah, but so how often, what's the percentage that compensation was the reason behind the turnover?
You'd have to ask Angela on that one. But it's pretty high.
And the other thing that we learned in our last meeting as well, Lee County and several other areas, their benefits are considerably better than what the Lee County School District is able to afford in benefits for their employees as well.
The cost.
So it's not just salary, it's also the benefit package, cost of benefits to the Lee County employees, Lee County School District employees, excuse me.
And it's not just compared to other school districts. As I look at our sheriff's deputy, for whom I'm very grateful that you're here, their benefit package is is significantly better, as is the county, those that work for the county, not the school board, but those who work for the county. Their benefit package is significantly better than what we can provide as well.
Yeah, the employee gets free benefits, but if you add on their children, it's $200 to $300 per paycheck for the children. And if you add the spouse as a whole family, you're looking at close to $500 per paycheck.
Don't we monetize that as to the total compensation? So like a teacher's salary may be 40 grand, but the total compensation then is like 55 grand if you factor in the healthcare system. There's a total compensation dollar that, I mean, that's the lever you pull. You say, okay, you give all that total compensation in salary, or you can give a little more in healthcare, a little less in salary.
But we're self-insured. That was one of the things we had, actually had benefits here last month.
What do you mean by self-insured?
They're self-insured.
Health insurance.
Self-insured, yeah. So they're paying all the costs. The county's actually paying it.
They're not
Self-funded.
going through they're not going through a corporation.
They use that.
And that actually facilitates it, but the district cuts the check.
Maybe you can go back and get the notes from the meeting.
Well, they're supposed to come back at some point because we asked them about bidding it out. In fact, I think was I the one on that one, Ken? Or
Yeah.
was that Sean?
But that was recorded. If they wanted to go back and watch
Well,
it
you
to
can watch
catch
that
up.
one. That was a really good one with a lot of questions. There were 5 or 6 of us here, and it was just one question after another.
Yeah.
Because we all kept coming up with, there has to be a better way to do business when it comes for the insurance, and why aren't we bidding this out? Can we save money? And that was one of the reasons you saw that on the one vendor in the beginning about the mattress.
But to answer your question a little bit, they did mention that the union dictates a lot of what is decided.
Right.
And if the union had felt it was important for family coverage to be provided, then they would have bargained for that instead of maybe increased pay or something. So they are looking at the total compensation package.
Can the school system buy into the state plan, health plan? I mean, I know they can do a pension plan, but can they buy into through the Department of Management Services state board? Because they have very good insurance.
10 or 15 years ago, the district department and the sheriff department and the county that had one big plan, the sheriff department and county that decided they didn't want the school district. So I don't know if that was a state cap, it's a state that's having benefit employees.
Just don't add on. Okay, let's get back to planning for upcoming sessions.
I'd like to ask if we could put January 15th for the operations and planning, people to come in and talk about their growth plans for school buildings, middle schools, and reconfiguration. They indicated they wanted to do November or January. I think January is probably better. And then I'll talk to them next month. We can get some preliminary. They're going to take a look at all the numbers to see what makes sense.
Okay, for January's meeting.
Darryl, you would also bring that back grant. You said it was a certain time of year.
I wanted to bring back the grant writer, but at this point, we're probably better off bringing her back after the first of the year. Only because they start releasing grants right after the first of the year. They go in 3 cycles and large cycles right, especially for summertime for staff members. Rainey?
In talking about saving money, it's, after being on this committee for so many years, it's hard not to bring up school choice. It's kind of always the elephant in the room. When school choice started in Lee County, we did not have near the schools that we have today. And now we have full school choice by zone. And I've done some research this summer. I've called the 8 counties larger than Lee County in the state of Florida, and none of those counties operate a school choice system like we do. So it's concerning, like we talked about last month with the insurance, why are we doing it like this when we look at our school choice system and, many of our buses just have a handful of students on them. So we're spending a lot of money on busing and school choice. I think that's something this committee should look at.
We went through transportation. We haven't had transportation in since the director left a year ago.
Yeah, I don't think he can answer the questions that she's
Yeah, I don't think
asking about
transportation
school
is an
choice.
issue though.
It's more proximity plan.
Yeah, and
Well, they said that they're shrinking down, they're trying to shrink the district to have uniformity where they have to offer all the children the same stuff. If you offer football, one school has to be at the next school. You offer an after-school program, it must be offered at a comparable school. So they did say it was a 3 to 5 year plan last time they came in for that, but that hasn't even been a year yet.
Correct.
Is there a department that you wanted to bring in for that? What you're thinking about?
I mean, I think there's just a lot of money to be saved on school choice in general. Another topic quickly, when I was calling around different districts to gather information over the summer, is our school board recently voted to hire a firm to represent them. I guess we were talking to one of the members on speakerphone. And when I did some other research, again, not really any other school districts in Florida are doing that. They have one in-house counsel. So it's looking like the preliminary bills we're seeing from this firm already have well exceeded what we paid one attorney when we had Martin or Dodich. That's not a huge savings for the district, but it's something we could look at, I think, and maybe bring forth a recommendation to hire one attorney, because I think it's going to be very costly.
Maybe through HR, would that be through HR?
That's a board decision, and it's also, we are paying them a lot, but we're also not paying other firms for work that other firms used to do because we're paying this firm instead. So it's not really an apples to apples comparison. We are having a presentation by that firm on Friday. You can't We're having a presentation on Friday by the attorney to determine whether we're going to have an ongoing relationship with them. And I really, with one in the room, don't feel comfortable commenting further.
Okay.
We could look at the budget and see.
Is that,
the budget
at least recognize that for the moment?
I guess I didn't know they were having any kind of meeting on Friday, but it's a huge expense.
I was gonna suggest let's set up meetings through January's meeting, and then in December we can revisit this and for the beginning of the year. Great, do you have some ideas?
Just two questions, and on the school choice process, again, as a new person to the committee, who could come in to answer some of these questions? Because from an efficiencies process, I think that, I mean, as a parent that where my child would go next year, we live an hour and 7 minutes from the school that she would have to go to per school choice. So that is a transportation issue, but I don't see transportation as the only aspect. I say there's a lot of inefficiencies that brings to the table that we're asking of teachers to be at school early or late or things to handle certain issues that I just see a lot of inefficiencies that are brought about by school choice. So I don't know all the answers. I don't even know who to ask some of that to yet. But that, I guess that's my question, is who is some of that? And then you'd mentioned operations in January. What all would they bring to the table? Is that operations of building? Is that current? I mean,
that's planning for growth and capacity for student seats, and so it's how many schools are going to build.
Like a K through 8 rather than a K through 5.
I think they also talk about the proximity and narrowing down the school choice to fewer schools, right?
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's, so they could, but that's a lot to talk about, but definitely there. Yeah, I mean, that, I think.
Well, and I think that because you made a mention of an accounting number as far as that it's impossible to build at a certain cost. As a contractor, I would be interested to hear where they're coming from on that and how we're saying we can't, because I know what some of those costs are. There's a lot of money there. So I would want to see where are they hitting those numbers from.
Facility management, maybe?
Yeah, it's facilities, and there's a construction thing, and the construction advisory committee reviews all of that information. So,
right, but and that's where I need to find out what am I allowed to talk about with some of that, because we have performed work in the past, and I'll be candid, the numbers that they pay for that work is not what open market rates are.
We bring them in, let's say in.
So listen, so that's where I need to know when we come to that, do I need to excuse myself from that? Because we have done stuff in the past, I don't currently. But it's a process that I look at and say, why are we paying X to perform this task when no one else in this market, regardless of the amount of construction that's being done, why are we paying that when no one else does?
So I think that you have, as long as you're not doing business with the district, you're open to have those discussions.
At that time, or,
Yeah.
because again, I can't say that my company may never perform work in the future. So that's why I wanna make sure of what am I allowed to.
Well, if there's a perceived conflict, you could just, I mean, you can be part of the discussion, but excuse yourself from the vote.
Okay, I've got no problem with that, I just.
And we can have facilities come in and talk about the costs and where they come from and things like that, if that's one of the things you all would like to have happen. So
Tentatively for November, is that?
Well, maybe we should we make a list of all the different ones?
Well, that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah, because the last time I got way more things that I had months to put in.
Yeah. So
I was trying to work through it, I still have
get
lists
their-
from last year too.
Yeah, if everybody puts their, what they would like maybe, and then we can decide as a group, because for example, I'd like to have something where we talk about the bonds and the cops and its financing strategy, particularly like, a lot of different counties are doing century bonds.
Right.
I mean, negative interest rates, revenue anticipation bonds versus cops. So I don't know if that's a discussion we should do right after the budget discussion, or if that's something that, how that fits in with the
That's a good idea.
in the district,
The law that they passed made it impossible for us to use revenue anticipation notes if we were going to exceed the per student station limit.
Right.
So that's why we're going after cops, and I know that bonds have to be approved by the public, so that would be an additional vote, but you would have to go out to the public and say, we approve this bond.
So I think it'd be interesting for us with the expertise in the room to get an understanding of the financing, long-term finance strategy of the district in terms of the liability side of the balance sheet. And so some presentation on that and why things are being done the way they are, and maybe people have ideas on how they might do them differently, or even just refinancing longer term, some of the existing stuff,
Unfortunately, I was thinking we'll have Jerry come in on one, but unfortunately, the state took away our refinancing abilities. Did that last year. So we all refinanced as quickly as we could, anything that was out there that was able to be refinanced, because they took that away.
But also note, all the refinancing the district has ever done, it moved it to a lower interest rate, but it never extended the maturity date or extended the balance. It was just renegotiating for cheaper interest rates. That's all the refinancing has ever done.
So is that allowed from a renegotiation perspective?
Is what?
To renegotiate rates?
No, we're not allowed to do it anymore. We used to be able to refinance our COPS and things, and they took that away, that availability away.
What was the purpose in taking that away?
You didn't really negotiate it. What you did is you sold a new bond at a lower rate and used the proceeds to pay off the old bond.
But what is the benefit of them taking that away? I don't understand.
Neither do we.
Frequently, there is a banking executive associated with the authorship of those bills.
Oh, jeez.
I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that there was an executive from Bank of America who wrote a bill requiring COPS funding for school stuff. That is a fact. Sure. Not exactly.
In regards to school choice, I
Oh,
sorry.
I think in fairness to the new people in the room, they have not been brought up to speed on the financials, and I think you raised an excellent point. If we can, I'm going to request that the chair postpone any further discussion on future groups coming in or parties coming in. I think next meeting we'll be able to dictate who we should be seeing, when we should be seeing them, once everybody's up to speed on what the financials truly look like. I think we're throwing a lot of stuff at people tonight. I've been on the committee for close to 7 years, and I still learn new things each meeting I come to as relates to financials. I can't imagine the people who are here tonight who have had first night, first hour and change in finance advisory, trying to get themselves up to speed that fast, to be able to determine who should be coming through this room.
And it's a big assumption that we can make it through the budget in October.
Exactly. It may be November as well.
Right.
You had a question?
So just in regards to school choice, I mean, I'd love to have the conversation, but does this committee actually have any kind of ability to change school choice?
We can make a recommendation, which then goes to the board. It would just have to pass through this whole committee. Which isn't always as easy as it looks. And then it would go to the board, and it's totally their decision from there. We just make recommendations, but as Chris will tell you, our recommendations hold a lot of weight with all the experts in every field in this particular committee.
But, well, in general, our recommendations should have something to do with finance.
Exactly.
I mean.
Like with school choice, we would target it from cost savings.
Yeah.
Usually
Right.
everyone
Yeah.
always goes to transportation. And as many times as I've seen transportation in here, talk about the same thing. The costs on transportation for school choice isn't as big as one would think. It's all the other costs of doing business. And
So in response to Paul, can we keep throwing out ideas though, and then maybe we can have a list of different areas we'd like to come in and maybe discuss it next time? Is that?
that's what I was hoping for.
You know what I mean?
Just ideas.
Start setting up things, scheduling things.
I wanted to try to get one or two done, but we have for October, we're gonna, I guess, for budget.
Can I just say one more thing about student enrollment and stuff? So, the student assignment plan is actually, they're looking at going out for an RFQ or something for companies to come in, a consultant to come in and look at that. So I really believe that maybe we should let the consultant come in, look at it, and then have the consultant come back and talk to us about the plan, the savings and the things that would be for you all. So I think we're kind of like, let us get some outside help with that as well, because we want to make sure we hear all the voices and that everything is looked at. And so we're looking for an outside perspective on that. So if that would be okay, I would ask that we wait till the consultants get into that process.
I recognize you do the public mind.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Well, with school, you know, can I say, sorry.
Chris, quick question for you. Do we ever get the risk assessment that was prepared by the internal audit firm?
Still waiting on the redacted version of it.
Okay, because I think that would be something beneficial to this committee also.
There were some safety and security things in there that are not, that are exempt from public records.
Just the history of school choice. I have adult children that went through the school district, and they were involved in school choice, and we were quite happy with, you know, their education. The reason why was immigration. And so I know we're talking money, but I would think that other committees would be also involved, advisory committees also involved, because to assure that there's, you know, equity and.
I believe that our board would be very sure that for any recommendations are brought forward, that it goes through some of the committees and is discussed, and they're very good at making sure that that happens so that they can hear from the committees as well. So.
Yeah, that cannot be just a financially driven decision. That curriculum, academic services would have to give significant advice there as well. And equity and diversity, like that is such a major change. I can see that going through almost all of our committees before the board would be willing to act on it.
And Daryl, to that point also, this committee probably remembers when we had the issue with Estero High School and going over budget, we had individuals in from operations, construction, as did the construction advisory committee. We came up with we assisted them in drawing up a flow chart. Construction advisory also was involved in that process. So we did not operate in this silo as finance advisory. It also went through construction advisory to make sure it wasn't solely focused on numbers. It also had to be focused on building code and other requirements that they would be more expert than us.
Just a follow-up of something that we had last year, we heard about different job opportunities in the schools, like they called them bathroom attendants. I remember we all thought that was funny because I pictured like somebody spraying cologne on public schools. Seems kind of cool. But I'd like to know if we could, just maybe by email, did they end up doing that? You know, did we end up putting those people in high schools and?
Well, that was for the vaping sensors in the bathrooms and for them to be able to have.
It was like the hall monitors.
Run from bathroom to bathroom in the event that went on. That happened in May, so it was just being implemented for the final 4 to 6 weeks of the school year. Dr. Atkins was the one that gave us information on it?
Yeah, so did we put those in high schools this year?
I believe some of the schools have put it into place this
Okay.
year. Others chose to get additional security people to walk the halls and be near the restrooms versus the
Hall monitors?
restroom versus.
Yeah, they're within.
I think hall monitors a nicer job, or nicer
It's much like the fire department of your. But I'm not sure, I'll have to go back and look how many schools actually hired that position. I know that last year when we put it into place, it was so close to the end of the year that we had the opportunity to hire someone for the position. So last year, there was no one in place. I do know a couple of schools that have the position in their budgets this year, whether they've been able to find someone to do that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting to me, if that was like a
I do know.
desirable job.
We can bring in Dr. Pruitt again, and that could be one of the questions we asked her to look up, since it is an HR question.
I mean, I just would like to know the outcome of it.
Yeah, I would too, actually.
And if I remember correctly, Trey was supposed to, and he was technology was supposed to.
It'd be super interesting to hear from one of them that took the job, actually.
Okay, if we have no more questions, do you have any more, Ken? Sorry.
I think we got that insurance.
Benefits come back again.
And I really have.
I have them on my list.
And I think the most important thing there is somehow we have to, maybe we take a look at the RFP, say this is gonna be doing an RFP within the next year.
Yeah.
Because that RFP is to be written in a very open way. It can be written very narrow, and we'll get the same thing with Aetna or the same 3 companies bidding out, you know. It has to, the way you can get like this guy to come in here, at least to be able to participate and respond to the RFP, it's sort of open. And so, the way she writes is really important, and I'm not sure, I don't know if she's under Pruitt or.
Yes, she is, and I'll ask Dr. Pruitt to attend with her.
Yeah,
Dr. Pruitt was supposed to be here the last time, and I don't know what happened, but she really wanted to be here, so something must have happened for her not to attend.
Yeah.
But I'll ask her if she can attend.
Because I think insurance is more under finance purview, probably, most of the people.
I think it's very important. I agree with you 100%.
And that may be for later, like in May or something, because, you know, because she's gonna take time to put that thing together, so.
But even when we see the data, I think there's multiple recommendations that could come out of just that information.
I was hoping for like February before the end of the school year. At least that's what I was thinking. I don't.
It would be whatever I think would be up to her probably.
Yeah.
When she can.
She said it would be a little while. It was gonna take her some time to work on it.
She applied.
Yeah, I don't want 2 years either.
She applied for one.
February? Okay. My suggestion at this point is we close the meeting, but everybody keep in mind, we're looking for ideas to bring in people for future months. We'll have that discussion, we'll put that on the agenda for next month to revisit this. As we're going through the budget, because budget could last 2 sessions or one meeting or it could last 2 meetings. Yeah. There's gonna be a lot of questions, you understand that. Okay?
Just one question. Last year, we had a couple students as part of the papers they attended. Is there going to be a process to invite a couple of students to be part of this?
Well, I will
I'm
very
hoping
much
that's
to
right.
Mary Fisher, she's really the person on the board who spearheads the student advisory committee, and I'll make sure that she opens it up. I don't know what process she used last year to choose those students, but I'll make sure that it's right.
Didn't they ask you to come, Paul?
I asked them, I attended their meeting,
And you asked?
and I spoke through Mrs. Fisher, and she put out feelers in the room, and there were 2 young men, both with interest. And hopefully we can get that same interest this year.
And I have one last question before we close. Is there like a teacher representation to hear their voices on what they think? Because we're not in the classroom, we don't work for the school board. I like to hear their perspective? They have some sort of committee and maybe a representative or?
To my knowledge, no. Some of us have staff members working in the system, some don't. So we have somebody that's in the school that can in some way answer some of those questions, I would hope.
Can't speak for everyone, but I can give you my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still would like to hear a teacher's perspective on.
But every school
some of
is
these
gonna have a
things that-
different positive and negative outlook. I've learned that from my years of doing this, that everybody, each school is gonna have a different feel. Like, you have some schools where staff's really positive and some schools where
We could invite TAL, Teachers Associations of Leaders.
That would be perfect, yeah.
Either Kerr or, Kerr is the executive director and Kevin Daly is the president.
We're talking about presentations or representation.
Representation's the same as students' perspective, just to hear the teacher's perspective, because, you know, we're voting and making recommendations on things that, I mean, I don't work in the school district, I'm not a teacher. So it's based on my personal experience, which may not be accurate.
Teachers are glad.
We did have a teacher a couple of years ago.
I remember, we used to sit in the corner with the little cap on.
Yeah.
My first love, I can't remember his name for the life, of me. He was great. Ramsey. He was great.
Oh my God.
Oh, he did great. Okay, do I have any motions to adjourn? Second? Okay, we will see everybody on October 16th. 4 p.m.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What do you get? Brown rabbits.
I saw, I work for Barclays downtown.